Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. I know for some of you this is late. Those of you on the East Coast, it's already 10 o'clock. This is such an important topic, and I really appreciate your support and your donations, which will go toward the National Center for Trans Equality. We've spent the week celebrating trans and gender nonconforming people, and then today is the day of Transgender Remembrance, which is a more sort of a somber event that's been happening for the last number of years. I think since maybe 2013, when we really just remember trans and gender nonconforming people whose lives have been impacted or ended by violence. And so I'll say a little bit about this project for those of you who don't know how this all came about. In the summer, I took a writing class, which Joaquin was also part of, with our friend and poet Cindy Williams Gutierrez, who lives part of the year here in TWISP. And it was a course on writing poems of social justice in forms, different forms. And the first assignment was to write an acrostic or an abecedarian. I won't go into that, but I chose to write an acrostic. And an acrostic is a poem that each line is a letter from a word. So you spell the word down the left-hand margin of the page. So that determines, the choices that you make about what happens at the left-hand margin of the page. And Cindy's suggestion was that we research something and a topic that's of interest to us or that we really cared about, and write our first poem about it. And so I had seen some news clips about violence against transgendered women, and so I just did a little Google search, and I ended up on the Human Rights Campaign website. And the HRC just does really phenomenal work. They track every death of a transgender or gender nonconforming person on their website, and they're sometimes a little bit behind, or sometimes the news doesn't really catch up with the HRC. Oftentimes people are misnamed or dead named or misgendered in the news, and so it takes a while for the HRC to catch up with them. But so I wrote my first poem, which is an acrostic on the word justice. About the people who had lost their lives to violence from January 1st through July 4th, from Dustin Parker to Summer Taylor. And after writing that poem, I felt so much grief and feeling that these people really deserved more than just a line in a poem. They each needed to have their own poem. And there's so little information. I was limited to social media and the internet. So I call these poems gleaned sketches. I've just sort of gleaned information from the internet as I could find it. And so I'm really just creating a kind of a snapshot about these people's lives and their deaths. And many of the poems are in form, but some of them are in free verse. And so sometimes if the form is a less common form, then it's part of the title. And then sometimes I might just mention, oh, this one's a sestina. There are a number of sestinas. A handful of villanelles and a couple of pantoums, and one guzzle. So the rest are in free verse. So there are lots of different forms happening here. So really, to sort of set the tone and get us started, I had thought what I would do is just read everyone's name. And what I got in my email today was this really wonderful new document from the Human Rights Campaign, the Fatal Violence 2020 report. And so I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see their faces as I say their names, even though their pictures are quite small. Dustin Parker, Alexa Neolisa Luciano Ruiz, Yampi Mendez Orocho, John Scott, Scotland Kelly DeVore, Monica Diamond, Lexi, Johanna Metzger, Penelope Diaz Ramirez, Serena Angelique Velasquez Ramos, Leila Peleas Sanchez, Nina Pop, Pele J. O'Regan, Jane Thompson, Tony McDade, Selena Reyes Hernandez, Dominique Remy Fells, Raya Milton, Brian Egypt Powers, Brayla Stone, Mercy Mack, Shockey Peters, Bree Black, Summer Taylor, Marilyn Cazares, Dior Ova, Keisha Hardy, Aja Raquel Roan Spears, Key Sam, Leah Rayshawn Day, Arian Burnett, Maya Green, Micheline Ramos Vargas, Felicia Harris, Brooklyn Deshuna, Sarah Blackwood, Angel Unique, Yunieski Carrie Herrera. Dustin Parker, 25, McAllister, Oklahoma, January 1st. Cold in McAllister, Oklahoma in January. For those not fit to drive, New Year's Day, Dustin drove his Rover cab to help them home for free. I saw him at 6:15, 6:20, and he was pronounced dead at 6:30. That still shakes me. Why didn't I hug him? His wife, Regina, said. The first day of the year, first transgender murder of the year, Dustin Parker, husband, father of 4, shot point blank through the window of his cab. His face in the obituary photo, young and sweet, open as the first day of the year. Alexa Neolisa Luciana Ruiz, 28, Tel Baja, Puerto Rico, February 24th. They didn't kill a man in a skirt. They killed Alexa. Because it is allowed, they taunted her always and everywhere. In the photograph that went viral online in Puerto Rico, after she was falsely accused of spying on a woman in the bathroom of McDonald's, she looks like a nun, the white towel on her head like a wimple, her black coat. But there's her purse, the mirror that was her safety to see who might be behind her. The photo allowed them to track her down and kill her in a park in Tel Baja. Hey, can you give me some of that ass? We are going to shoot you up. Let's spin the tires on this motherfucker. You bet I'm going to go and shoot him. In the headlights glare, 10 shots. Laughter on the video they shared on social media because it is allowed. She was a person unafraid of humanity, humble, noble. She was also hungry, wandering, lost, maybe unstable. Who would not be, given what is allowed, when your life is unvalued, when they cannot claim it as a hate crime without a motive? No one has come to claim her body. Yampi Mendez Orocho, 19, Moca, Puerto Rico, March 5th. Fuck love, I don't believe in it anymore. The day before you were killed, Yampi, this is what you wrote. Now I'm left wondering, is that what the world gave you? There's not enough to answer the questions. The woman who assaulted you 5 hours before, did you go home for help from your mother who reported the assault to the police? Then you were dead. This we know. Shot twice in the face and twice in the back in the community playground in Moca, where you grew up. The day before you were shot, a selfie in front of a mirror. There's a blue-eyed tiger tattooed on the back of your left hand, a cross on your right forearm. Your shoulders are wide under a turquoise shirt. Diagonal lines of red flamingos all rest on one leg. The nails on your slender fingers are long. A thin rectangular pendant hangs on a silver chain down your chest. Your face is narrow, fox-like. Deeply set, shadowed eyes look at your phone. Flamingos represent an open heart, balance, grace. Yampi, where is your gaze? Monica Diamond, 34, Charlotte, North Carolina, March 18th. Monica, chosen mother to all, despite your dress and beautiful smile, they misgendered and dead named you. Jeremy Whitted at your death in the parking lot of the Days Inn. The police reported a man said he was having trouble breathing in the ambulance being treated. That man, you, Monica, asked for his friend to come into the ambulance with him. Refused entry, your friend, Monica, came back with a gun and shot you several times, multiple times, killing you, Monica. It's the 6th anniversary of the International Mother of the Year pageant. You said, I want to give something back to the mothers in the LGBT community, to say thanks for what you do as a mother in the LGBT community. And this pageant is for the female in the LGBT community that is a drag, thief, or transgender. Your own people, Monica, your own words, your own name, Monica Diamond, beauty pressed from rock. Lexi Ebony Sutton, 33, Harlem, New York, March 28th. Lexi of the House of Ebony. There's a scarcity of details once again, despite there being witnesses at the scene. They say you stole somebody's wig that night. Were you working, waiting, resting, Lexi, on that bench in Harlem River Park? There's a scarcity of details once again. At 1:30 in the morning, Lexi, what brought the man on the red scooter to your bench? They say it was the wig you stole that night. They say the man on the scooter stabbed you twice in the neck, then fled the scene without a trace. There's a scarcity of details once again. Some didn't see a scooter, red or white. They say they overheard you being blamed for stealing someone else's wig that night. You're the 5th one killed so far this year, Lexi. I wish I knew more about your life. There must be more than wig and scooter here. There's a scarcity of details once again. You can't have died for a stolen wig that night. Johanna Metzger, 25, Baltimore, Maryland, April 11th. Jo was not attacked because of who she was. She was not the target. Wrong time, wrong place. I'm sorry, Christine. I stalked your Facebook page to learn about Johanna Metzger, the trans woman stabbed on the street while in rehab at Safe Haven in Baltimore, identified as your child. You say that Johanna was not killed for who she was. For you, Johanna never existed, only your son, Joe. It's his image on your profile and funeral pictures where he, your son Joe, his hair cut short, wears a black suit in his coffin. You say you'll bury his ashes with you, want to name a star for him. You say that Johanna was not killed for who she was. On her Facebook page, where she had no friends to show, she identified herself as Johanna in fingerless black gloves, an off-the-shoulder shirt over camisole, her blonde hair long, her smoky eye makeup, and with glasses or without, her steady gaze. Of her love interests, she said, it's complicated since September 2019. After her death, you wrote, if you could only go back 3 years, my son would be alive. No ashes to bury. Her stars a pentangle. Last post 2 months before she died. What haven did she seek in Baltimore in April, becoming her place and time? Maybe it's time to untangle, Christine, her identity from your own. Penelope Diaz Ramirez, 31, Bayamon, Puerto Rico, April 13th. The 3rd in 8 days. Penelope, how can a life be reduced to facts, and those so few, and used to compare you with those who died just before you? Is not even your death yours alone? April 13th, lost to violence, which it turns out means beaten and hanged to death at the Bayamon Correctional Complex, a men's prison in Puerto Rico. A men's prison, Penelope. Why did it take 2 weeks to announce your death? I have more questions than answers, Penelope. Not even an image of you survives to those like me, an outsider like you. Penelope, weaver, faithful, long-suffering, wise and wily, your name is strong. Did you weave and unravel your own shroud as the days passed to stave off crude suitors? My mind stops at your end. This next one's a little challenging to read. It's more of a poem that reads a little more easily on the page. It's an erasure, but I'm going to do my best to sort of give you a sense of how it looks on the page. Selena Angelique Vasquez, 31, and Leila Peleas Sanchez, 21, Humacao, Puerto Rico, April 21st, an erasure. Extracts from the FBI affidavit reported to the Washington Blade, May 4th, 2020. 2 men, murder, 2 transgender women, April 21st. Hate crimes. Sean Diaz, 19, wanted to shoot and kill Leila Peleas. They had sexual relations. Juan Carlos Pagan, 21, and Serena Angelique Velasquez had sexual relations. Diaz wanted to kill both for telling them that they were transgender. Peleas proposed marijuana to talk a little more. Peleas gave Pagan the keys. Diaz shot and killed the 2 trans women while driving under a bridge, set the vehicle on fire, the bodies inside. Nina Pop, 28, Saskatoon, Missouri, May 3rd. We marked safe, we on the safe board. Saturday, May 2nd, the day before you were stabbed multiple times at home, you wrote, nothing like getting up and jamming and deep cleaning your house on a Saturday morning. My house is spotless anyway, but nothing like a Saturday morning deep clean. That's a whole vibe. Last days of stay home, you were ready to get out, clean house or no. Sunday night, your joy spilled onto New Madrid Street, video on, eyelashes, and that cropped baddest babe hoodie. Watching your face, hearing your voice for 15 minutes and 32 seconds, just hanging out, looking for your cousin Ellery, you come through clearly. Missouri drawl, the way you drank from that tall styrofoam cup and straw, camera on, your face lit by car lights. You said, I'm not going in that open space, keeping safe in the celebration. In your video, I've seen for myself with over 5,000 others, both how and why you were loved. What happened next, only you and he know, and neither of you is speaking. It took 3 weeks, but know that they got him, Nina. He pled not guilty, despite the crime scene being against him. It's not much solace, I guess, but they had help. Many called to give information. It was a hate crime, Nina, no doubt in their minds. Hella J. O'Regan, 20, San Antonio, Texas, May 6th. I love myself now. Thank you to everyone who's ever supported me, and to anyone who hasn't, I hope you come around. Damian Campbell came around, but not to love her. The barbershop closed for quarantine since March. She and the crew inside were cleaning when he tried the lock. They let him in, May 6th, 2 days before reopening, 3 past her birthday. He asked for an appointment, gave his real name and phone number. went out to get his backpack in order to pay, and came back with a gun and knife. He said, God sent me to kill you for doing something wrong. What have you done wrong? What have you done wrong? God sent me here to kill you because you have done something wrong. What have you done wrong? He didn't want money or the computer. He put Helly in a chokehold, and when she lost consciousness, stabbed her prone body multiple times. He killed Helly as God's instrument of death. They say there's nothing to indicate a hate crime. Jane Thompson, 33, Mesa County, Colorado, May 9th, 2020, misgendered for a month. Since she came out, life was very different, Lepardi said. Everything changed. A lot of things started weighing on her mentally. Being a cisgender male, she said, was easy. Then transitioning, people didn't trust her as much. Her children's mother didn't accept her change. At the bar in Bisbee, Arizona, tourists were rude. Men would bump into her hoping for a fight. No one knows what she was doing in Orchard Mesa that day. Clearly she was lost, standing by the road for over an hour with a stick across her arms like a mannequin. She just stood there doing nothing illegal. But someone called 911 anyway, worried maybe. Clearly she was troubled. To the officer's questions, she was unresponsive, then aggressive, wielding a knife. The cop who shot her took her for a man with a shaggy beard. He said she lunged with the knife, so he shot her. Multiple times, it turns out, even after she was down. It was a month before they corrected her gender and name, Jane. Her coworker Liz said she doesn't even know where she's buried. She said, every night when I would drop her off at home, she would say, good night, I love you, Liz. That would be the last thing we would say to each other. Tony McDade, 38, Tallahassee, Florida, May 27th. Somebody that I gave my loyalty to allowed her son and nephews to jump me. Tony, the cracks that you fell through were disloyalty, poor mental health care, biased policing, and the low value of life that makes killing an answer. Let's be clear, you wanted to kill those who jumped you, 5 against 1, beat you in a fetal position. You wanted to kill even yourself, made many attempts, or in a shootout with the cops who you said, they see a gun, they just shoot. So that's what I'm pushing for because I don't want to be here on earth dealing with the government. Some say, Tony, that the government isn't responsible for our lives or your death. They're not responsible for our health and safety, for our liberty and justice. Some say, Tony, that you were a girl, some a man. After you stabbed Malik with a knife, payback for the fight, the cops hunted you to the Leon Arms, and there at 10:59 a.m., someone said, I just heard pow, 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 pow. So I'm like, damn, they shooting early in the daytime. It's daytime they shooting. Tony, they say you pulled a gun, pointed a gun. So shots were fired, and then you were gone. Selena Reyes Hernandez, 37, Chicago, Illinois, May 31st, a Pantoum. He kept seeing her face, so he went back there to do it again. Selena, everything about this is wrong. Murdered for being trans by an 18-year-old, it's hard to say man, high school student, who lived 2 blocks away from you and owned the Luger he killed you with after coming home with you for sex. At 18, every boy becomes a man, even if he's still in high school, old enough to vote, to own a gun, to pick up a woman at 5 a.m., to get in her car and then go home with her intending to have sex. Selena, you can't have known he'd react this way to who you were. Being old enough to vote, to own a gun, to pick up a woman at 5 a.m., why would you expect that he would kill you because you were trans? Selena, you can't have known he'd react this way to who you were, that he'd go home to get a gun to shoot you, then shoot you again. You certainly never expected that he would kill you for being trans. You brought him home, you washed his hands, then he asked, and you said. So he went home for the gun and came back to shoot you again, then again, to kill you, Selena, because who you were, he said, made him mad. Dominique Remy Fells, Philadelphia, PA, June 9. To be successful, take care of my mother, and have an impact. These were her three wishes as told to the man with the video camera that day on the street in Kensington. Also, just know the next time y'all see me, I'm going to be somebody, not just on YouTube, on television. She took the sidewalk with a sachet, showing off in short shorts and shearling boots those long legs. Remy was just always having a good time and laughing. We have a lot of family get-togethers. She loved being around her cousins, uncles, aunts. She likes to eat and have a good time. Her mother said, tolerance and acceptance should be a natural, common way of life. The evening of June 8th, Remy's body was pulled from the Schuylkill River with trauma to the head and face, stab wounds which by some kind of grace are what killed her before both legs were severed at the thigh. Who does that? They're looking for the man, an acquaintance in whose home they found a cutting tool and blood. There were 27 trans women killed last year. Halfway through this one, it's nearly the same. At her funeral, which spilled out onto the street, the minister said, we're fighting against racism, classism, homophobia, hate running rampant. Black Lives Matter, LGBT, Black Lives Matter too. Her sister said, I have never felt more pain than choosing the casket that's my sister's final resting place. Every day, I wake up and see her face. Ryan Milton, 25, Liberty Township, Ohio, June 9th. Ohio does not have a hate crime statute that includes sexual orientation or gender identity. Raya, your picture captivated me. Full-figured, long-lashed, shapely brows and bow mouth, your soft face framed by hair and twists worn long down your back, a beautiful woman. There's so much I don't understand. They say that two teenagers used the internet to lure you to a park to steal your car. What did they promise? When you got there, you understood. The boy, 18, shot you and accidentally himself. The girl is 14, the juvenile lover of a 25-year-old man they're still seeking. On the map, Liberty Township is a swanky swath of lawns and parks dotted with McMansions and creeks thick with trees. They sought you, Raya, who lived as a trans woman and just wanted to be accepted, and lured you to that place of green to kill you and steal your car. Asked if you were targeted because you were trans, the Ohio police said, no, absolutely not. This person was lured there to be robbed and have his car, his belongings taken. Brian Egypt Powers, 43, Akron, Ohio, June 13th. He knew so many people, he never met a stranger in his life. This one's an acrostic for a transgender person. Transgender is a blanket word for all who fall outside the realm of gender types. It's not an indication that someone is a person who's changed their gender assignment or now uses they pronouns. No, one assigned male at birth can still use he pronouns and live a unique expression of gender beyond gay. Brian was such a one, 6'4", sometimes eyebrows arched and hair in unicorn braids of varied colors, now and then curls, or shaved short and generally dressed for comfort. Brian, who was also known in Akron as Egypt, staunch supporter of the LGBTQ plus community, recovering and living stably, working as a cook, which he loved. Paula Abdul backup dancer was his childhood dream. Even though it never came to pass, he still reminisced about it. Racism, transphobia, or random violence, still unclear who shot Egypt through the thighs and left him to die on a bit of grass off the University of Ohio campus. Nobody's come forward. to help solve the crime. Brayla Stone, 17, Little Rock, Arkansas, June 25th. You got to forgive me if you feel I'm too much. Brayla, there was a lot of you to reckon with for only 17. Your Facebook page is full of photos of you in pinup pose, your tongue stuck out, these interspersed frequently with the faith that God got my back. The paradox gives me a whiplash. I feel very old and very white swimming up from your social media sites. The wigs of many colors, the clothes likewise, and eyelashes the size of butterfly wings. I feel your fight, your will not just to live, but to thrive. 17 in Little Rock, Arkansas, and someone paid $5,000 to have you killed by another teenager who had already once beat a murder charge. You had humor and pride and grit and some source of cash that kept you in brand name flash and bought a car for your mama. Your body was left in a car on a walking path in a suburb called Sherwood, which is ironic in a sad way with its innocent suggestions of Robin Hood and Maid Marian. The cops say there's no indication of a hate crime, Arkansas being one of 4 states in which they don't exist. Forgive us, Brayla, for not being enough for you. Mercy Mac Ritchie, 22, Dallas, Texas, June 30th. This man teased my bestie for being gay in middle school. Whole time he really had a crush on her. Mercy, I try to imagine your fear being chased and shot by Angelo Walker, who bullied you in middle school. Only you two know what happened in the days before your death, the video you plan to release. Once again, a man has killed a trans woman because he couldn't live with his desire. It started in your teens, his teasing, taunting, then as adults, to shoot you while you ran, to stand over your fallen, your small body, and shoot you again. Mercy, you know the fear that festers into killing disgust. You could prove what Angelo Walker was, what he is still, even with your death on his hands. Killing you does not kill the part of him that wanted you. Shockey Peters, 32, Amite City, Louisiana, July 1st. She was full of laughter and abundance of life. Shockey, there's a plant that grows here where I live called shadbush. It's also known as serviceberry, but it's the genus I thought of yesterday, seeking shade on the hillside, carrying you with me in the heat of day. How it gives shade, gives fruit, dark purple, seeded and nourishing. Your face, Shockey, in the one photo I can find is round and open, dark and sweet. Your eyes seem to tip up a bit at the outer corners. Your lips are full, plush as pillows. I keep waiting for some story to explain your murder. I don't know how much that matters in the long run, but it might fill the gap around your death. I keep thinking about the name Amite City from the French for friendship. Like my hometown, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Likewise, no friend to trans women. I spent a month in Louisiana in 1984. It was hot and humid, and I loved the way the sweat soaked me, sticking clothes to skin. I used to move from shade to shade, the shadows of buildings, banana trees, and one very large fig tree in the yard of the house I rented, hand-shaped leaves the size of fans. In 1984, Shockey, you weren't even born yet. It was a heyday for being queer, if you don't count AIDS. We were all trying on gender like a wig or a dress or suit and tie. I used to go to a drag bar in Philly where I had a crush on a Zoftig redhead I now know to have been trans. She was very kind to me, taking my face in her soft hands, fragrant and styled like the mother of a childhood friend I had to share a bed with one weekend. I clung all night to the far edge in fear I would accidentally touch her. There was a ripeness in her, sweet, nourishing, a kind of femme that makes my heart ache, that I've never known or been. There are so many kinds of shadow, Shockey, so many kinds of shade. I think of you now inhabiting that, luscious, lush, safe. And this is one of many sestinas. Bree Black, 27, Pompano Beach, Florida, July 3rd. The average life expectancy of a Black trans woman is 35 years of age. Like everyone, what she wanted from life was independence, just the usual American dream with its varied and fixed rewards, health, the safety to travel, to walk without fear on the street. She wanted to live and be recognized in the world as a woman who could keep a job, enjoy her life, have her own crowd. That weekend, on her own block, close to home, in the crowd was someone who shot her and ended her hard-won independence. No one can say if she was shot because she was a trans woman. The sheriff's department increased its initial offer of a reward in hopes that someone will want the money enough to break silence about what they saw and who killed Bree by gunshot in the street. Even after 10 o'clock, it's brazen to shoot someone in the street in the midst of a large and rowdy holiday weekend crowd. Someone must have heard the shot, even if it was far from silent, being a loud holiday, fireworks and music to celebrate Independence Day. But keeping silent about witnessing a killing has its rewards, regardless of who did the shooting and that the victim was a trans woman. American independence didn't change life for American women or most men. Black people were expected to step into the street if they met a white person. If they didn't, they reaped a violent reward, public humiliation at least, or flogging before an angry crowd. No, it was a long time before many got what you could call independence, the freedom to learn, work, vote, marry whom they loved, and break silence about the many and unsubtle ways this country continued to try to silence them. Jim Crow and the marriage laws that essentially treated all women as property. Don't forget the ladies. So much for American independence. Still, many feel patriotism, or at least a desire to celebrate in the streets, gather together to barbecue, parade, drink beer, and in Florida, crowd the beaches. Then, once it's dark, a fireworks display is their just reward. Bree went out close to home to be part of the action, to celebrate, and her reward, American taxpayer, employee, her parents' child, was to be forever silenced there, shot by an unseen killer who disappeared into the holiday crowd. 27 years old, she was the 10th Black and 19th trans woman killed in the first 7 months of this year, shot and left dead in the street. You have to wonder what there is to celebrate when there's so little independence. The world offers very little in the way of rewards, even safety for trans women, undervalued and silenced, often by those they know on their own streets. The trans dead form their own crowd to demand for the living independence. Summer Taylor, 24, Seattle, Washington, July 4th. They were always the first one to call people out for being sexist, racist, standing up for queer and trans people. They were the ones who were so vocal. Dancing the Cupid Shuffle, wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, protective gloves, a mask around their chin, Summer Taylor, activist, sibling, child, animal lover, killed by a car driven the wrong way up a closed ramp into the crowd. Summer, white, non-binary Seattleite, had all the privilege of race, love, family, support, college, meaningful work, and strength of conviction fed on these nutrients. They stopped to dance on their way to City Hall at 5:30 in the morning, another night-long protest, the Black Femme March, festive, a celebration, the interstate closed, a space created for them to stand together. The day before, Diaz Love, injured in the crash, posted on Facebook, "The death threats from hate groups is real this weekend." Love, recovering in pain, the threats keep coming, writes, "If they thought this murder would make us back down, they are wrong." Summer, the last death in the first half of 2020, stands in stark relief for what they stood for. Black trans femme sisters, trans brothers, femme dykes, and gay boys, white, black, brown, the rainbow of gender no car can mow down. Marilyn Cazares, 22, Brawley, California, July 16th. She was strong and she would look anybody in the eye and say, I'm very proud of who I am. Marilyn, it's hard to keep up with the pace of hate this year. This summer, it seems to flower like a noxious weed, sending spores to couch themselves into what should be the beauty of your freedom to be yourself, brave, your proud Aunt Larissa's proud niece. It's rare for family to use the word niece for those who are transgender, as if they hate recognizing their changed, their brave children. Is it so hard to let them flower, to allow them to find their own beauty? All that imposed invisibility is couched in misgendering and dead naming. Your couch was set ablaze, Marilyn, Aunt Larissa's niece, by someone who had to kill your beauty to cover over his own self-hate. Did he see in you the seed and flower of a life he did not feel the bravery to love? To love what is, we must brave life or risk watching it go by from the couch, separated by walls and doors from the flowering. We must be willing to witness living. My own niece has also been hurt at the hands of one who hates her self-sufficiency, her fierce beauty. Our family nickname for her is Beauty Heart. It's a way of saying, let my love make you brave, protect you from the world's random acts of hate. Marilyn, I'm telling you this only as a way to couch the heartache of your aunt proclaiming you as niece. She told the world about your painful flowering from a boyhood of taunts and hurt. You were a flower amidst the heavy feet of those who fear unfamiliar beauty, one born a boy who grows up to be a niece. That transition is the thing that made you, Marilyn, brave. Your murder and the burning of your body on a couch did not extinguish your beauty with the flames of hate. Your people came to leave flowers for your bravery, Marilyn. Your beauty lives beyond the burnt couch. No one can kill your Aunt Larissa's niece with hate. Dior T. Ova, also known as Tiffany Harris, 32, Bronx, New York, July 26. Dior, today my friends asked me what it means to be queer. I said it means not being limited by orientation or gender. Your mother said he was just gay and that sometimes you like to dress up in women's clothes and be feminine. He didn't hurt anyone. In 2014, your Facebook profile calls you him. Your photos are cute, queer, femme. I read that you went to prison for 5 years in 2016 for armed robbery, which explains the absence of photos. When you came out, you were changed. Your stepfather said you were stabbed twice in the neck, once in the chest, and once in the abdomen. How can anyone be so brutal? Some of your friends didn't know you were back on early release. Some knew you as Tiffany Harris, some as Dior H. Ova. They all knew you were the life of the party, a shopaholic. Everyone loved you. Half the transgender murders last year were committed by acquaintance, friend, family member, or intimate partner. Your boyfriend stabbed you in the hallway of your Bronx apartment at 1:30 on a Sunday morning. He was captured on video wearing a mask to protect himself from COVID, but his face is clear. I can't tell what he's thinking, whether he's coming or going. Dior, Tiffany, your names show your love of beauty, precious things, elegant and well-made. Keisha D. Hardy, 24, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, July 27th, a Pantoum. I love the skin I'm in, and there's nothing you can say or do that's going to stop God's plan. Though she lived as a woman, police identified her as Kevin Hardy, saying Hardy's next of kin requested she be identified as male. Baton Rouge police do not believe Hardy was targeted because she was a trans woman. So she was misgendered, as Kevin Hardy's next of kin requested, not recognizing the one known as Keisha, who lived as a woman. Hardy wasn't targeted because she was a trans woman, police say. They've got no other motive for her shooting. Her killer must have recognized her as Keisha, who lived as a woman. Surely the way she was dressed, her hair and makeup. What possible motive could there be to explain her shooting on a rainy day in the street in the middle of the afternoon? Surely she was being herself, had done her hair and makeup, was on her way somewhere, possibly to the salon to work. A rainy day in the street in the middle of the afternoon when someone shot her and left her there alone to die. Keisha was on her way, ran her own salon, proud of her work, although on a Monday afternoon in July, she must have been free when someone shot her and left her there alone to die. We still don't know where she was going or why she died. On that last Monday afternoon in July, she was still free to dream her dreams, to simply be herself, Keisha, wherever it was she was going before she died, loving the skin she was in, still following God's plan. Aja Raquel Roan Spears, 34, Portland, Oregon, July 28th. Few details are known about her death, which occurred at a vigil for another homicide victim. Rocky, if I may call you that, your sense of fashion is apparent in every photo. It's clear that you were vigilant about your looks, clothes, makeup, hair, nothing to murder you for. A month has passed and still the Portland police hold no one accountable for your murder. There's no more protest for you, despite being killed by an anonymous brutality. It's been a hard summer, so many ways to be brutal, erupting like flash fires. I sit here trying to fashion a response to find the words that will stand in protest for your death. A Black trans woman killed at a vigil for a Black man shot, nothing to do with the police who, we could say, started this with George Floyd's murder. We must not forget his and all the other murders, countless, unending, that show our basic human brutality. I know it's pointless to lay blame on the police who are doing the job that white folks have fashioned for them, so we do our best now to watch, be vigilant about what's done in our names. I write poems of protest, living far from the streets, the epicenters where protest looks like a wall of living bodies. Still, there are murders, like Summer Taylor's at the Black Femme March, also a vigil. An angry man drove his car into dancing bodies. His brutality, not even called murder, killing a young person in that fashion and badly injuring another. How can we trust the police? I was taught long ago that they were our friends, the police, the people you would go to for help. During violent racial protest in my town, those cops gave my father permission, in a fashion, to kill whoever got too close. Just drag him inside, not murder. I remember how the fires burned and gunshots brutalized a Sunday night, how in our fear, my family gathered to keep vigil. Your hometown, another Black man shot. You, Rocky, kept vigil on the street, then inside someone's home. Later, the police called about a disturbance. They found you stabbed brutally, silent witnesses, hostile and uncooperative, a kind of protest. They're still not talking about how or why you were murdered, whether accident or intention, someone killed you in either fashion. So many trans women's lives meet brutality, no matter their vigilance, fashioning themselves to fit. So hard to pass the critical policing eyes that despise their gender protests so much they end in murder. Key Sam, 24, Lafayette, Louisiana, August 13th, 2020, a guzzle. Started school at the Northside High School, Lafayette, Louisiana, July 14th, 2018. Key, Shaki, Keisha, Drea, Black trans women murdered in Louisiana, which has no law for hate crimes against gender. Despite being shot on August 13th, her death was lost to us and misfiled under her dead name, Kendarius, misgendered. She was shot in a hotel and left to die by a 16-year-old boy. Whatever he thought of who she was, we know his gender. 4 killed by gun violence in Louisiana in 4 months. It's time for a trans hate crime law to be engendered. Subaga mourns them all through poetry, her people, her sisters. She carries their deaths in her heart, queer, cisgender. Isabella Maya Lofton, Brooklyn, New York, September 7th, 2020, a bel absente. This is a really unusual form in which you omit the letter, each of the letters from the first word in the title from each stanza. really crazy, but I wanted to give it a go. Isabella Maya Lofton, Brooklyn, New York, September 7th, 2020, a bel absente. From a Brooklyn rooftop, Labor Day mostly over, and maybe alcohol, maybe sex, maybe pushed, maybe fell to the pavement and broke her neck. What do we know about her but Chicago, New York, video dancing in wig and lace, long nail, plump-lipped, curvy, feminine, alive? We know this: one more died too soon. Someone wrote, "It's no crime if you trick him." I noticed the possible trickery of the words and their cruelty. Another trans woman lost to what's unknown. I look for things to hold as truth, words, actions, faults found to close this story with. Sorrow has its own story: birth, childhood, youth that burns for taboo, for wild nights, hookups, and fright from night's razor-sharp brink. No one said her age, young, under 35, the most a trans woman such as she can expect to be among the breathing, not a ghost. Months pass in this year of chaos, so much taken by force, 30 murdered, more wounded in body and twin spirit, burned, cut, shot, drowned, dosed. I write this for her, for them, to lift their lives from the snippet of news showing no proof of crime, to protect their freedom to be unmolested, to live. Someone must honor their chosen selves. Arian Burnett, 37, Independence, Missouri, September 19th, a found poem. 3 months left in 2020, the number of trans people murdered equals the number killed in 2019. Shot to death in Independence, found on the side of the road about 3:40 a.m., 2 days before her birthday. Arian was a Barbie. She was a goddess. Can you hear me? When I say goddess, she was everything. Brooklyn Lindsay and Brianna Hill in 2019. Dee Dee Pearson, Christmas Eve of 2011. He didn't learn she was trans until afterward. As a friend, and those are my friends who got killed, and being a Black trans woman, it's a pain I don't know how to fathom or to tell. Maya Green, 29, Philadelphia, PA, September 28th. The more visible we are, the more we can talk about how bad things are. Hopefully it will humanize us and people will see us just like everybody else. The driver told police his passenger had been shot. He was racing to a hospital. That was why he ran a stop sign in his Jeep. He was bleeding from the neck where he'd shot her 3 times with a gun lodged in the console after an argument. He was not a stranger, but her intimate partner of long standing. His story, it goes without saying, was a lie. Why is it that so many men feel compelled to lie about their transgendered lovers, the desire that shoots through them in spite of themselves? Desire can be partner to violence. Some people need that extra thrill that runs their breath ragged, some taboo they've set up that consoles themselves for what they want, like a noose around the neck. This man, her lover, shot Maya in the arm, side, and neck with a gun that was at hand while he drove. What was it that lay between them that Monday morning? What consolation in shooting her? She sat by his side in his car and he shot her. Now she's dead and her time and her love of life have run out. What is love when it turns to killing, if not a partner to hate? Where's the safety in a loaded gun, that gun your partner, a part of yourself, if it's there by your side, a noose around your neck? Thankfully, we no longer hang killers. How to understand why he ran so fast to try to save her when he himself had shot her. He tried to lie, poorly thought through, no story to explain how she'd been shot. Did he grieve for her death? Was he sorry? Who will be there to console him? No, he's going to be on his own now. No Maya, no consolation for his anger or his grief. The paradox of love and hate in partner crimes is a mystery with deep roots. Every year, countless women are shot by those who call them mates. Such love is a millstone around their necks. For trans women, their choices are dangerous, often resulting in a lie about who and what they are, for fear that love and comfort will run. Maya and Abdullah ibn el Amin Jamia had their long-term run. He was no stranger to her or who she was. It does nothing to console those left behind and grieving, the fear that they will die if they don't lie about themselves or hide behind closed doors. They deserve to partner, to live in truth, love, safety at home. Why must they risk their necks to have what we all want, to be who and how we are without being shot? This year is nearly run out. Still, trans women are killed by partners, and though it's no consolation, strangers. It's a killing bottleneck, lack of laws and lies about sex. How long until another lover is shot? Micheline Ramos Vargas, 33, San German, Puerto Rico, September 30. She had been shot several times in the head. Police are investigating whether her killing may have been a hate crime, but they are not ruling out any possibility. The prosecutor said that there were 3 bullet casings at the scene of the crime, an isolated roadside near a farm that corresponded to 3 wounds in the face. She was studying nursing. She was a bartender. She was calm and reserved and talked to her mother, who mourns the crime of those 3 bullet casings. Her hair was honey-colored, shoulder length, and curled away from her face. Her hair was dark brown and pulled back in pictures before those 3 wounds to her face. There were 3 casings, 3 wounds. Her face in photographs is both beautiful and serene, undamaged. The prosecutor said there were 3 bullet casings. They are violating us, hunting us. They are murdering us while Wanda Vasquez and her government chooses to look away from the 3 fatal wounds to Micheline's face. She was 2 years short of the average trans lifespan. She was the 6th to die in Puerto Rico, the 30th in the US. The prosecutor said there were 3 bullet casings that corresponded to 3 wounds to the face. Felicia Harris, 33, Augusta, Georgia, October 3rd. Though Georgia passed landmark hate crime legislation this year, gender identity is not included. She was shot 1 time. She was the 3rd transgender person killed in the area in the last year. She was left dying in a park on a Saturday in October. She was an interior designer, a dancer, a friend. She was the 31st transgender person killed this year. No suspect, no motive, no law to protect her before or after. Brooklyn Deshauna Smith, 20, Shreveport, Louisiana, October 7th, a found poem. It has happened again. Shreveport police responded to reports of a dead person, located the decedent, 20-year-old Brooklyn Deshauna Smith, inside the apartment, suffering from at least 1 gunshot injury. Born and raised in Shreveport, she studied cosmetology, had worked as a call center agent. Full of positivity, good humor, and family, the typical 20-year-old woman, vibrant and eager to embrace what the world had to offer. She is the 21st Black trans person, the 20th Black trans woman murdered. She is the 5th from Louisiana. All were Black trans women. She is one of 12 aged 25 or younger and one of the 4 youngest total. How does a 20-year-old end up dying alone in an apartment from a gunshot wound in the middle of the day? The number of trans neighbors murdered in broad daylight is on the rise. A society that doesn't acknowledge the visibility and validity of trans folks, especially trans women, especially Black trans women. Sarah Blackwood, 29, Indianapolis, Indiana, October 11th, National Coming Out Day. Friend, have you walked the streets of your city under its familiar night sky, safe in your skin, your body moving inside the clothes you wore all day, late, work ended, safe in the night that shields the cowards hiding behind guns to kill what they hate? Sarah Blackwood must have felt that walking home from her shift, thinking of anime or Avery waiting for her, then the shot that killed her. Did they drive past? Were they on foot? Did they call out some name for their sickness? Faggot, freak? Sarah, a shy trans woman bothering no one, kicking ass at her job at Kroger's, waiting tables at Long John Silver, her love for My Little Pony, a life so benign, who could hate it enough to shatter it, to shoot her in the dark and leave her, yes, her too, dying alone in the street. Sarah, I'm grieving for you, for all the nights I walked in my dark leather and jeans, keys in my hand like a weapon, never even thinking of the car that might come, shooting, the power of fear in those who don't care who we are. Just two more. Angel Haynes, 25, Memphis, Tennessee, October 25th. They really don't like people like that over there. There, being Whitehaven, informally known as Black Haven, a conservative neighborhood south of Memphis. They really don't like people like that in too many places this year, the deadliest on record for transgender people. People, what have we come to? Whatever happened to live and let live? Whatever happened to all God's children? Angel Unique, she was called, who transitioned right after high school in 2013. On the last Sunday night in October, still healing from surgery to confirm her gender with her new breasts, she stopped at a Motel 6 on her way to Memphis, where someone shot her in the head sometime after 2 a.m. Everybody that knew Angel knew that she was very funny, very nice to everyone she met. Still, despite her uniqueness, her niceness, because someone did not like her at all, she met her death. Unieski Carey Herrera, 39, Miami, Florida, November 17th. The freeze has returned. Sunrise flares over the near hills, turning the view pink and blue, the colors of the trans flag. Another trans woman has been killed. Winter approaching even in Miami, where her man, who got her name tattooed on his hip, jealous and tweaked out on meth, stabbed her with a knife and fork at 4 a.m, a time we should all be sleeping for a short while, safe in our own bodies and dreams. Snow turns blood red as day comes on here far north of her death. A beauty queen, salsa dancer. She told him she'd found a better man. Through his tears, he told them this. In the picture, he is built like an exclamation point, all upper body bulk, like a wedge against her sibilant curves. A knife and fork, tools to devour what sustains us. So you can unmute yourselves, and if anybody has any questions or anything you want to say or ask, thank you for listening. I know that was long.
Really powerful stuff, Subaga. That's just incredible. Sitting through the workshops, hearing these one at a time over the last few months is one thing, but stringing them all together and just hearing the repeated, inexplicable violence, it's horrific. It's really horrific, and the work itself is just beautiful in the face of that horror. It's really, really remarkable work.
Thanks so much, Greg. I never am sure, I go through periods where I have confidence and faith, and then I lose my confidence and faith, So yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Subaga, I would like to say that I know like an hour went by, but it was really an easy hour for me. And I felt there was something meditative about hearing the names, the dates, the time and place, the how, even though there was a very familiar outlooks in all the poems, there was something really meditative and, I don't know, it just worked. And it just worked. I was just there. I appreciated it. The hour went by fast, and I loved just how you read it. It was really moving. And I can tell this really meant a lot to you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. Some of those poems are, well, I've carried these people around for so long, I'm thinking about them all the time, really, by first name and the images that I have of them. So it's like going through a family album almost, in a way, reading the poems. It's like, oh yes, here's Shaki. And some of them are like Nina Pop, and Shaki Peters. I mean, some of them, for some reason, just the personalities that I gleaned from them, or just their faces, they just got their hooks in me very deeply. So it means a lot to me to know that the hour went by quickly. Appreciate that. Thank you.
One of the things, Sabaga, I mean, first of all, the poems were beautiful and so emotional. Really, it was almost difficult at the beginning. I sort of had to kind of ease into it, and beautiful rendering of these lives in your reading. One of the questions I had, I noticed, I loved all the different forms you used, which was great. But also, which I found this so interesting, because I'm thinking about this in my own work too. Some of the poems, you're addressing the person. It's you, and you did this, and it's wonderful. The intimacy, and then some of them, for lack of a better term, it's more narrative, a third person, or this is what happened. And I'm just wondering if this was just like an organic thing as you were writing, or if there were, why you made these choices, if you even know why.
It really was really organic, because especially in the summer when I wasn't working and I was just spending really long hours every day working on these poems and just researching on the internet, and there's so little information. So there were themes, there are themes that run through it. One is the lack of consistent hate crime laws. It's like the police could actually say, in all seriousness, there's no evidence of a hate crime in a state where they actually don't even have a hate crime for gender or gender identity. So sometimes I think when the second person poems came out of a sense of really trying to make sense of things, and so addressing the person in a way kind of helped me to connect the dots. I mean, sometimes it was so difficult, I would just have this mishmash, a page of stuff pasted in from, and you've also written, Jen is a brilliant poet, and has just her new chapbook is in the year of Ferraro, which is about Geraldine Ferraro. She also has a book about the murder of Kitty Genovese. So she writes also about historical events. So a little bit about this, right? You're mining all this stuff and like slapping it all into a Word document. And there must be a poem here somewhere, right? But it's very hard to find it. And so sometimes it was just like me just leaning in and saying, okay, Shaki, or okay, Rocky, or whomever the person was, what's, where are we? Where are we with this?